Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We have children of all ages on the pod today. This might actually be the largest age range of people we've ever had on the pod in one episode, maybe. Because we've had some kids. Anyway, hi, everybody. We're back for another episode of Always Almost There, day after show live. We're here to talk about Colorado Goose Night 1, Fiddler's Green. How's everyone doing today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Great.
Wonderful.
And as you may notice, we have very, very special guest, Wallace Brinkman, joining us today for a few minutes. Wallace, how are you?
I'm good.
All right. So your second Goose show last night.
Yes,
give me
it
your
was.
thoughts overall on the experience of the show last night.
Okay, so I feel like some songs they put some jamming like different from like type 2 jamming in the song, and I felt like they did some too much jamming.
Too much
Too
jamming.
much jamming.
Ooh, your father's like out of frame, like not happy. All right. What was your favorite part of the show last night?
My favorite part of the show was probably when they started the second set with the Tumble.
That was you were hoping for it?
Yes, I was.
Awesome. And what are you most hoping to see tonight?
Well, there are a few songs I'm hoping to see tonight. I'm hoping to see Modivine, Pancakes, and I forgot the last one.
All right. Well, we are very excited. We'll see
yeah.
you at the show. What was the last one?
I forgot still.
Oh, you forgot. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Wallace,
Just real
much
quick
for joining us. Oh, yes. Ken.
Real quick, Wallace, what was your first you mentioned that yesterday was your second Goose show. What was your first Goose show?
My first Goose show was at Fiddler's Green last year, June 8th.
It's a pretty
Rock
good
and roll.
track record of shows so far. Wallace also is a good luck charm at Fish so far. So, we're going to keep that streak alive tonight. There we go. All right, Wallace, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at the show later.
Thanks, Wallace.
Bye.
Oh, hi, Brian.
Gentlemen.
Didn't see you there.
Brian, are you okay that your child
good.
just got on the air and said, I'm not down with the jams at all?
There could
Not
be no
enough
answer.
songs.
There could be
Not
no
enough
answer
songs.
that was more contradictory to my worldview of jam band music than that. We're gonna have a conversation before the show
Yeah.
tonight. It's all I was gonna say.
Get your head on
Ryan,
Yes.
did you get Wallace on Storm Tracker yesterday?
We did. We
We
get
did.
Wallace on
We
Storm
did.
Tracker yesterday.
Okay, and I assume he took the Hundy, right?
No, he took the jam.
Okay.
He didn't. This is
This is a spoiler for the next episode of Storm Tracker, by the way. Yesterday's question is a good one. A lot of smart people at Fiddlers. I'll say that.
we really have to talk about consistency of opinion. Like, this is the most important thing in jam band podcasting. You take a line and you just hold it. So he can't go back and forth on this jamming thing. We'll talk afterwards.
Yeah, you got to tell him. He's at the age where he has to decide whether he's going to be a vibes guy or a jams guy.
That's
Yeah.
it. And you
Gotta-
know where
gotta
I
walk
stand
in.
on this, Ryan. You know where I stand on this. So, maybe he's going to rebel. My parents were Reagan Republicans, and there I went and voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary. Maybe the pendulum is swinging.
Anything can happen. Well, we're here to talk about last night's Goose show. Four of us here were at the show last night, and one of us is in Boston for some reason. We may
Went to
never
bed
know
early.
why. Went to bed
Oh, I
early.
did go to
Yeah,
bed
didn't
early.
even- it was a Friday night. Didn't even stay up for the whole show. Like, I don't know. Does he really like Goose?
I checked out after the Tumble, which was the perfect time to check out because then I caught up this morning and it was quite good.
Yeah, it was good. Well, let's talk to our Colorado boys who hadn't seen the band in a year. Top level. Let's start with you, Jive. Getting into the show last night. What were you feeling like?
Well, it was a little wet getting into the show, but thankfully, it was storming on the short drive from picking up Kevin and his sister and the venue, which is just a few miles. But as soon as we pulled into the lot, the rain gave way. sun started coming through, and then the rest of the evening was gorgeous. Nice, cool Colorado evening. So we pulled in into the lot and met up with with Ryan and Lisa, and Brian was a few cars down, and we met a couple other really cool guys from Boulder. So yeah, I mean, it was just a nice, really chill atmosphere, like it tends to be there. I don't think that, especially that lot, is really nice and chill. So yeah, great vibes, and I was certainly, feeling excited, and I was ready to rock.
Mm-hmm. Brian, how about you?
I mean, I was stoked. I've really enjoyed the last couple of months that this band has been playing. It was the first time I was seeing them since last June. Obviously, a lot has happened. Yeah, we were following the weather that we were expecting to get dumped on for part of the first set. And like Jive said, one of the things I love about living here is you get this like spring weather, but still sunny, like deep into the middle part of June. Just a great kind of chilly, cool night. Ryan, I texted you this. The vibes were just immaculate throughout there. I get a lot of, especially for my Colorado friends, but even people from out of town, that they wish that they were still at Red Rocks. And my take on this is that they just couldn't do it anymore. It's too intense. There's too many people that show up for it. The thing I love about Fiddlers, it is a no stress venue. You walk in, there's space everywhere. They're growing into the venue in a really cool way. A show like last night should probably bring some new people there this evening. But as opposed to Red Rocks, where you have to wait like 2.5 hours just to get into the venue to grab anything below like row 40, Fiddlers is just the most supremely chill type of place you could see them at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it felt like similar attendance to last year. The 200s were relatively empty, but there were a lot of people on the lawn still. So interesting to see also, you'd kind of expect like some people on the lawn to maybe want to go down to the 200s. I think the incline is a little bit, or it's not as bad in the 200s as it is on the lawn. I think that's the one knock against Fiddlers, is that the entire venue is on kind of an inconvenient.
It's quite a slope
for standing. Like even where we were just in front of the soundboard in the hundreds, and it was still like, B, you were stretching before the show started. You're like getting ready to stand on an incline for a few hours.
Yeah, you got to make sure that that lower back is limbered up and ready to go. You can't come in stiff.
No.
You're in big trouble.
You cannot.
True. I'm still not the same from Spec 2019 Fish, where I danced on that dang lawn, and my back is still broken. So you got to be limber.
You got to limber up. It's true. It's key.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, same. Just excited for Colorado Goose. Let's dive into this first set. And I mean, right off the bat, drive opener. Neil, do you want to do your thing now?
What's my thing?
The thing that they played the repeats from last year?
Yeah, you're gonna bust his balls for a minute.
Since we were talking about Storm Tracker, we should talk about my companion series called Storm on My Nerves, which is shit that Ryan says throughout the tour that drives me insane. And this, the latest installment is that he absolutely called me an idiot, called me a moron, said they absolutely will not repeat any songs. And I was just talking about them playing Give It Time twice.
Yep.
That's it. That's
That
all I
did
was
happen.
talking about. And then Ryan just came at me and was just really furious. And then right out the gate, first song, repeat.
Yeah.
Drive, even. Not even something off the album.
This is also
A song they played a 30-minute version of last year, like
Exactly.
a monumental version that then let's kick off the whole run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, they usually the big jams at least are even more off the table than the normal repeats. So
Right.
I think Drive was on the table because of what they did with the Drive. I think it was it's a special occasion for it. This is also the 4th time Drive has opened a show in 2025.
Whoa.
Love to see it.
Yeah, love it. B, you had something?
Well, I was just going to say, to be fair to Ryan, I certainly wasn't expecting Drive again. As you said, Brian, after that, monster version. And then secondly, Neil, I've already asked you this once, I would prefer Storm on Our Nerves, not just Storm on
Yeah. You're all included. It's
The branding team already worked on it with Storm on My Nerves. We're gonna have to talk to our people.
we gotta get
They're
we gotta
very
get
flexible.
Gotta do some user
Guys use the
testing.
background.
I think Our is really gonna come out ahead in the long run.
I'd like to be included in here because I made a couple song predictions as well, and I was told I was an idiot all the same.
Well,
It's
we
all
can
right.
definitely make an HF pod version, which I'm sure that you and Megan.
This
and RJ
has
could use.
crossover appeal. Come
Oh,
on.
definitely. Honestly, any one of my friends, any one of my close friends would love to be included in this.
We'll talk to the branding department.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
sure.
All right. Well, let's talk about this drive. The Woes are back. Very, very exciting. First time since 3/1/22 that the Woes are back in drive. We have words now. So
Kind
it's not
of.
Woes.
Yeah.
Right. But they brought back that composed section and that the melody and then that jam segment. Really excited to see that come back. Obviously, we were just talking about that in our interview with Rick back in March. So, exciting to see some results, if you will.
Did he give a reason why they went away? I forget.
I think at the time it was like, they were trying to freshen up the arrangements of songs. So similar, like, shifting the focus to the first jam of All I Need and the rearrangement of Echo and, eliminating the second jam from that. And so Drive was just one of the things that I think they were like, they wanted to do like the quote unquote second jam or like jam it out of the guitar solo instead.
And then perhaps also taking pieces out and then forgetting about them.
Yeah, I mean, that's also possible. But I mean, I was really excited about this and really, really great jam here, kind of a throwback 2020, 2021 Drive jam, of course, with that segment and just, major key to guitar jam, 19 minutes or so. Phenomenal way to get the show started.
So many moments last night where I just thought to myself, why is this not a 2-guitar band permanently? It just, oh my God, they were in the zone.
Yeah, the part that comes after the woes section, which is, can't you see we're all cut from the same cloth? Can't you see that it's all made up? Which is fascinatingly deep and weird, and exactly what I would expect from Rick when he's just grabbing lyrics out of nowhere. But yes, the jam that comes after that is absolutely beautiful. There's nothing truly special. All of the things that you heard in this Drive were things that they've done in either section of Drive like a zillion times, I think. But it was still great. I actually love the version a lot.
I love that they brought that back, because I always felt like it was missing a little something, once they removed it. But all I ever thought was, oh, I wish they'd bring that back. And what I love about what they do with their songs is, yeah, they didn't just bring it back. They brought it back and then threw some new lyrics into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just love it so much how they tweak songs and try different things and arrangements and it's I was so happy. I was a little bit bummed that we heard that in the lot while they were sound checking it, because I felt like it would have been such an awesome surprise.
Yes,
to just get that in the moment. But nonetheless, yeah, super, super happy. And I really hope that stays because it just sounded amazing.
Yeah. And just for the record, Neil, if you need proof that we don't cheat at Fantasy Goose, I don't think any of the three of us put Drive or Indian River on our picks after hearing it.
I tried to, but it was the deadline that was Neil had shut it down already. So.
It's like proximity thing. If you get within a certain distance of the venue, you can't access your picks anymore.
I need to enable that. Yeah, it seems like a good idea.
After the Drive.
Just real quick, our Fantasy Goose ethics are just unimpeachable, and anybody that would suggest, outside of maybe Ryan, massaging the numbers or trying to cut corners, just totally unfounded. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
I put up an egg last night.
Kev, you are a man of the utmost integrity. Everybody knows this, and to lump yourself in with Ryan like that is incredibly gutsy move.
And speaking
I felt like I created a partition there.
And speaking of your chest, looking sexy over there.
Hashtag sexy Kev. Today's hashtag. All right, moving on from Drive here. We've got How It Ends coming back, early first set. like it's been doing so well this tour. And Susie Q, Turbulence and the Night Rays. Good first set fare, a little chugel. I think as a wise man named Jeff Hill said earlier today, imagine having any fucking clue what CCR song is playing based on the first few notes. And he's right. We were like, is it Green River again? And then I was like, oh no, it's Run Through the Jungle. And then they started singing, and it's Susie Q.
I think the coolest thing about the Suzy Q is seeing the videos pop up from like 10 years ago of them playing in a fucking backyard, playing Suzy Q in the backyard somewhere at a wedding or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's somebody like throwing bags in the background. It's fucking hilarious.
Baby Rick and the shenanigans. But yeah, I mean, good first set stuff here. How it ends is just so good. And Turbulence outside in the summer during the first set is just immaculate, always.
It's one of those choruses that when you look around, you can just see it really connecting with the larger crowd in a way that I think Animal has the same sort of effect.
Did you say people love that shit?
I would say people love that shit in reference to Turbulence. That's one of my favorite, just like pure Goose songs that you're never going to hear jammed out. I think How It Ends is gorgeous. Let's be inspired by Bruce Hornsby more and more and more. That plus like Give It Time are just like two of my favorite new songs that the band has. And you're always going to kind of get this in the middle of a first set with them. Like you're going to get just a few straightforward songs, maybe a cover. I thought these three were nice to keep the energy going.
Mm-hmm. B?
I'm gonna talk about Indian River.
All right, yeah, okay, we'll save that. Kev, Neil, you guys got any thoughts on How It Ends, Suzy Q, Turbulence?
No,
Sing-songy first set for the people that like sing-songy Goose.
I'm still not yet sick of How It Ends. I'm still more enamored with it every time I hear it. And if this is the quality of kind of first set sing-songy set that we can expect, then I'm super stoked.
Like, okay.
Because the 2023-2024 six-pack of openers kind of set, three-pack of openers, whatever, got really, really exhausting. And this is the opposite of that.
Is Suzy Q an
How It
opener?
Ends is so good.
Could be a three-pack.
I mean, it's such a gorgeous song. It's just got like such a vibe. Like you've gotten into the venue, like you've maybe gotten something to drink, a snack, a show slice, if you have one. And you're relaxed and you're finally like, oh, the stress is over. I've gotten here. I've driven to the venue. I've gotten through security or whatever. And then you hear that, and then you're just instantly relaxed. In the same way that Your Direction has almost the same vibe. So killer stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound insulting here with what I say because I mean it as a compliment. Like Your Direction and How It Ends, Give It Time. These are like adult contemporary songs in a way that can appeal to a very different segment of the fan base than is, more like the Dave Matthews side of things than the Fish side of things. And I think that that's a net positive because like you're saying, Neil, like How It Ends sounds the way that, really good, like Jesus, etc. by Wilco sounds. Where like you're in a show and it's just a great vibe and you're kind of thinking on a deeper level, but you also have a good crisp beer in hand and like you're ready for, maybe your friend brought like little mushroom chocolates for you. You're going to have like a little wild night out, but like you're still, you're driving a like an Audi back home, like you're doing well and having a good night out. And this song just like exemplifies that for it. So like Goose needs this to keep going.
Yeah.
What a nice friend to bring you mushroom chocolates.
Really?
It is Colorado after all. But yes, they do take a little essence of that stuff that you heard in the dentist office growing up, that vibe.
Yes.
And then just throw it right into new songs that we've got here. I'm down with it. I don't.
They make you rethink Light FM in a way that I didn't think any band could.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
There we go. First set continues with our second, I guess, arrangement bust out, if you will. OG Indian River with the Sanskrit verse. Sanskrit. Last performed on June 19th, 2021 at Legend Valley. It's 298 shows. Those keeping track at home. Very exciting. B, talk about it.
Okay, so I have a lot to say about this. I'll try to make it quick.
Wrap in.
I love this version or this style of Indian River, and I have forever not understood why it's taken 298 or 99 or whatever it is, whatever the gap is, to bring this back. It's just amazing, you know, and it's such a, now this song is a vibe, and this fits right into everything Brian was just saying. I mean, it's just a nice kind of reggae feel. It's floaty. I mean, the lyrics are beautiful. So yeah, it keeps that vibe going for sure. And then you get the Bhagavad Gita verse, which I always feel a little bit like when we just say, you know, or the notes just, you know, references Sanskrit. I kind of feel like that's not quite enough to say about this, right? So I love that they add this. This is something else that I would love to see more. Maybe, yeah, and yeah, I get that maybe they wouldn't want to do this every time because it is special, and I think very meaningful to Rick. But I love seeing this. I was so happy and excited to get to see this last night. I think getting this and the Drive bridge back in the same set, to me was that might, you know, this show is so full of highlights. But as far as the first set goes, those were two just huge highlights for me. And so just really quick, so this is from the Bhagavad Gita. It's actually, if anybody really wants to look into this, it's chapter 2, verse 17. And how it translates is, that which pervades the entire body, know it to be indestructible. No one can cause the destruction of the imperishable soul. So that's the translation of what's being sung there. Yeah. It's so anyway, just one last time, so happy to see this, and please don't let it be another 300 before we do this again.
You've gone up to 300. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think even without the Bhagavad Gita verse, let's get this Indian River arrangement. You know, I like they added a new bridge, little musical section before the Bhagavad Gita verse. But I like this arrangement of the song, you know, way more than the 80s synth version. I think at this point, I think, you know, definitely, like, we didn't get a lot of jamming because they segued into Animal, but what they were doing on the outro and kind of the way that Peter was playing organ was really, really cool. I think last night. So I would love to see more Indian Rivers in this arrangement rather than the 80s synth with, you know, because the other option for this set was, instead of doing 15 minutes of Animal, they do 15 minutes of Welcome to Delta Jam. Right? Like that, you know, there were two things. There was actually a moment when then we were finishing Indian River before they did that outro jam. I was like, what if they did the Delta now? Like, how would Jive Goose feel about this version with the Bhagavad Gita verse and the Delta Jam?
Extremely conflicted.
Brian, what did you think of this Indian River?
I mean, this has long been one of my favorite songs the band has played. I tend to love the kind of vibier side of it. I like the 80s synth, and like I like the way that they did for Indian River, the same way with Born. I think that's a really good zone for them to be in. Talk about like another much maligned period in rock music history that I think Goose just owns really well, and they play in that space really nicely. But I thought, like, sun was setting, it, as you're saying, Jive, like, they're just like, they seem to like always add some kind of special nuggets to their Colorado shows here, where they kind of try to tap back into their history. Obviously, you know, Rick living in the area so many years ago, they seem to just, they have a great fan base out here. They seem to love coming out here. So it seemed like a really special moment. The thing that really got me, though, was the segue in Animal. This is something Ryan and Neil, we talked about. Goose being a band that jams really well within the confines of one song versus a band that is able to put together multiple segments. We'll talk more about this when we get into the second set. But for me, once you started to hear the growl in Rick's guitar and you started to hear Animal appear on the little horizon there, and then they found it just perfectly. And there's just a continuation of energy, and there's, you know, a musical, like, thematic connection between those two. Looking around, everybody was kind of losing their mind as Animal was starting. So it was cool to tie together this, you know, homage to kind of the near past of Goose's history, as they were a much younger band on the rise in a very different place than they are today. Connect that with this band that is now able to get 14,000 people to do the make the sound of an elephant midway through a song to close a set. It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
I kind of had like the same note on this, which was, you juxtapose these two songs. You have Indian River, which is kind of an old favorite. You have Animal, which is kind of a newer song, and the vibe of the two couldn't be more different. Right. So you have this kind of chill, kind of laid back, really deep lyrics. And then they, of course, pull back this extra deep lyric that you have to go and kind of look up to know the meaning of. And they juxtapose that with, the monkeys work their abdominals.
Yeah.
It's just kind of amazing. So it's just like chill and then party and then, very serious lyrics and not serious at all. And somehow it all works really, really well. And I love the segue from one to the other. Just, it's a great way to end off a set.
Yeah, people love that.
So it's the whole jam band experience. Like we're thinking deeply. Like we're getting you're relaying secrets that I've been trying to figure out for the last couple of years. And also it's a big dumb party. Like it's the perfect Venn diagram of the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kev, anything to add here?
And it is an overlapping Venn diagram with mushroom chocolates right in the middle. So what I'd like to say is, people need to stop being scared of Animal. I really like the last couple of versions that they played. I know we laugh at some of the lyrics to it, but I think there's a newfound seriousness to how they're playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, in terms of the song itself, it's something that I wasn't necessarily looking forward to when they used to play it, but I would say the last few times that they've played it, they've really, like I said, put a seriousness to it that I'm not going to run away and go to the bathroom like some people may have done, last night on this podcast right now. But
you got call outs happening.
But it was a good solid version of Animal. Sick jam, bro.
I think last night's isn't necessarily on the level of something like Milwaukee or Spokane.
No.
In terms of just the emotion that they put into the jam. But there's still, Brian, I said to you last night at Set Break, I think there's still an intention behind the Animal Jam that wasn't there in 2023 and 2024. So it still 100%. Feels fresher. And I'm not they're playing a 16-minute Animal, and I'm not that was a complete waste of 16 minutes like I was,
there's definitely a good chunk of that jam where they're kind of searching for something to happen in a really cool way. And I was talking with two of my friends who I was at the show with, who I see a lot of Fish with, and we all kind of commented individually how much it felt just like a Fish jam when they were in the middle of Animal there, where something's building, but while we're waiting for it to build, everyone's kind of saying a little bit about what they feel at the moment, and they're trying to find a new kind of musical terrain to play around in. And I don't know, I thought it was a killer version. I agree with you. The Milwaukee one is probably my favorite of the year so far, but that was it's cool to see a song like that kind of take this next step where it can be a set closer, but can be really interesting all the same.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you took the words out of my mouth on that Fish reference. And yes, I did make the pro move of hitting the bathroom and getting some fresh beverages.
I wasn't going to name names.
And when I stepped back in, when I stepped back into the proper part of the venue, I was flooded with this deja vu almost kind of feeling of wow, I felt like I was at a Fish show for a moment in my mind, just because the sound that was coming from the stage just was so reminiscent of that for me. And I went and spent the rest of a large part of that jam talking to Haps and just kind of chilling with him, and we were talking about that as well. So. And look, the last thing I'll say is that I'm in the same boat with everyone else. I mean, these Animal jams have been nice, blissy and vibey, and they've been great.
Yeah. Not heavy-handed, about 16, 17 minutes every time. That's all it needs to be. Doesn't need to be anything more than that.
Yeah, it's good.
It's phenomenal.
I do want to say though, I do agree with Ev Dude here. He said Animal felt a bit unnecessary last night though, with so much other stuff on the table, especially because they played it at Fiddler's last year. You know, there was another repeat. Which
so many repeats when like people were saying they would never repeat a single song from last year. My God,
those people are so fucked up. I can't believe they even expressed that kind of opinion.
I know, ridiculous. But I mean, I agree. Like, there's so much on the table that, first of all, is more due on this tour than Animal. Like, where is Empress? And also, like, I guess that's basically my point. It's like there's a lot
Empress?
of songs. Yeah.
I'll challenge that. I think
you don't think Empress
Animal, in terms of a jam vehicle right now, if you want to have that vibe at the end of that first set, Animal's the right song to call. I think maybe you have an argument for them playing something like Dustin Hoffman in that spot. That would be amazing. Or something like Iguana Song or Torero. I think those three would be awesome there. But like Empress, I can do without it.
So Torero was on the written set to be after Indian River, but they did Animal instead, which was listed after Torero. And that the first set went as written. Other than that, the second set, obviously, they changed a lot.
Wholly rearranged.
Second. But any more thoughts on this first set before we move on to set 2 here?
Well, one just quick thought about why they played Animal that I had. They came on stage, I think, like 7:47. They left the stage just before 9 o'clock. The curfew is 11:15. I think they knew if they played Dustin Hoffman, that is going to probably jam upwards of 20 to 25 minutes at this point in time, it feels like. Empress tends to be relatively long in that sort of standpoint as well. Like, I feel like they know they can get out with a song like Animal in 15, 16 minutes. But it did kind of surprise me because as I was looking through, you know, song rotations and what we could expect, plus, you know, the confirmation that they wouldn't play a single song from last year, I was trying to put a set list in my mind, and there's a lot out there. There's like a ton of big songs and a ton of new songs that we just didn't get last night.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that. Like, the second set was a very classic set.
And then just real quick, if I can ask a question, hopefully quick question of each of you, like how many of you expected more songs off of Everything Must Go yesterday?
Neil did.
I did for sure.
I did.
You know, someone on this podcast has been saying that we were getting the entire album at Fiddler's this weekend.
Well, hey, listen, we're actually pretty close to on pace for that. I mean, there's no way they can play all of them, but I would expect several songs from that album tonight. And that's bodes well for everybody. That's not
and also based on the written set. You know, Redbird was on the written set, Thatch was on the written set, and Everything Must Go was on the written set for set 2. So there were a lot of audibles happening.
Yeah. Should we talk about the second set?
Should we talk about the second set? Because, you know, someone has been saying lately that, you know, they're not jamming the classic jam vehicles anymore. And so Goose was like, hey, buddy, you know.
Is this podcast always so passive aggressive? I'm just asking.
So we're just, hey, we're in mid-season form here.
And a lot of, and Brian, a lot of times we're not passive aggressive. We're just straight up aggressive with each other.
Well, embrace it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Who the hell is saying that they don't jam classics anymore? Name yourself.
Wait, hold on. So I deserve an opportunity to defend myself. I'm still holding to that. I'm going to double down on that right now, even though I've been challenged. They don't lean into the classic jam vehicles right now. They are not jamming out Madhavan. They're not jamming out All I Need. They're not jamming out Wisteria Lane like they have in the past.
Wisteria. It's just shorter.
They played a shorter. That's my point. Night. They're not taking it far, but they are doing things like going far with some of these songs. So you're going to say that they really jammed out Echo of a Rose last night. They didn't. They really jammed out Psycho Killer. And
we'll get to that.
Factory Fiction hasn't jammed since 2020. So again, I don't know what your point is in this second set, not in the way that it did last night.
You're so negative, Neil.
And so I think I'm right. I think I'm still right, even though you've said what you just said.
All right, good. I'm glad you defended yourself. Well, let's talk about this Tumble here. You know, this is, as Jive Goose said this morning, this is a very good Tumble trademark, all capital letters. I mean, opening the second set, I feel like it's been a while since this opened a second set, and as per usual, I look for the stats while we're already on the pod. Last time Tumble opened a second set, okay, no, never mind. Charlottesville last September. Trevor is absolutely the MVP of this jam. to me. His work in the first half, and then even in the second half when they get out of that really intense funk that they were in, and then two guitar Goose the whole way through. The way that Peter's supporting Rick and doing that thing that he does where he just makes like a cloud of noise underneath what Rick is doing in the leads, and it's so good. But again, this first half of Tumble is just pure like danceability, like everybody getting down, everybody loving the energy, and Rick and Peter both on their wah pedals, just kind of like vibing off each other on stage. Rick's been using the wah a lot this tour, but I'm a big fan of this Tumble. I listened to it twice this morning. I don't, again, not going super high on my playlist, but really, really enjoyable jam.
It's okay to enjoy songs, Ryan.
It is.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not going on my playlist, but I enjoyed it. I think Trevor in this song, just delightful, as he has been, but a very excellent groove that they found themselves in. It was not an unreasonable waste of time of 20 minutes. It was quite good.
Good way to put it.
But no, I mean, I think the challenge that you're going to get is like, it's not a very good jam. It's just kind of a run of the mill Tumble. Again, like the Drive, 20 minutes of pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Stuff that you're used to.
Yeah.
And I still think it fit really well in the set. You actually needed that because the journey you're about to go on, this segment that follows, Ryan, that, they needed something that was just kind of, I don't know, not too exploratory, I guess.
Yeah, so Neil, I mean, I agree with you a lot about almost everything in life.
Yeah, of course.
But I will say that I think was this Tumble Jam something new and inventive? No, but I also wouldn't want to disparage it in any way. I'm not saying you're trying to disparage it, but I wouldn't want to disparage it in any way by also saying, well, it's nothing new. I mean, it's the same old thing. I think that it was a high level of that same old thing. You know what I mean? I think they executed that thing at a very high level in this jam. I felt like it was supercharged, and it was a huge dance party, and it's the whole band just it's like a freight train kind of jam where the whole band is just firing away, and the crowd in that place was really, I think, getting down that whole 20 minutes or whatever it was of that jam. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that most of it. I just want to throw that out there.
Well, thanks for refining my statement. I think that's kind of the vibe that I was going for.
There you go.
But yeah,
always aligned, you two.
Yeah, we always are.
I think. Well, so in terms of like the whole crowd going crazy, we had 6 young ladies behind us that I think they enjoyed the concert as a opportunity to catch up with each other. Ooh. And the Tumble was the only time that they nobody was talking. The whole place was vibing. I think the point you guys are making is really sound, and I think it is something that is interesting to explore with the evolution of where the band is at right now. Some lineup changes. They're now this unit on stage that seems very solid and has also advanced quite a bit since many of us discovered them in 2019, 2020, 2021. And what they did last night in that Tumble sounded like a lot of Goose jams that I've enjoyed over the years. And a Goose jam that if something was played in that mold in, say, 2019 or 2020, I would be sending it out to people as like proof of, hey, look at what this band can do. And they've advanced past that in a lot of cases. Like, I think we're all on a similar page. Ryan, Neil, I know we've talked about this, like the Westville Rockdale, that feels like a step forward to me, that we are not yet in that terrain on a permanent basis. We are more in the terrain of this Tumble. What I thought was really interesting about it was not that they were in new terrain. It's just that they can do more with this type of approach now than they could 2-3 years ago. Absolutely. And so I almost was thinking during it that, because, I can't just boogie. I have to be analyzing what's going on during the Tumble.
Of course.
I kept thinking about how this is similar forgive me for the comparison, but this is similar to what you would hear in like 1995, 1996 Fish, where they're playing similar music to what they've been playing for the last 3 or 4 years, but it's bigger, it's more dynamic, and they're clearly ready for an evolutionary next step. So it sounded really fun, it sounded familiar, but it sounded bigger. It reminded me almost of the riff in the Wisteria Lane from the Ryman 2023. If you guys recall that first jam, that was kind of like almost like a Meters S jam. This was more, it got me thinking of the Carini from Hampton 2013, just like candy coated groove that like everybody wants to keep gobbling up. Like you put this as a drink, it's Coca-Cola Classic. It makes you feel like it's summer. Everything is good. Everything is happy. Plus you tack on a bliss jam at the end, like rinse and repeat. It's not the most revolutionary stuff, but I was into it.
Yeah,
Man, you just described why I love your direction.
That's a good call. That's a good call.
One thing I thought about during this tumble last night, and kind of, we haven't really touched on this specific point yet this tour, but they're being much more intentional about what they're letting go for 20 minutes than they ever have in the past. I think if you look at all the songs that have hit 20 minutes on this tour, there hasn't been, that Charlottesville tumble from last fall is a perfect example. It's like similar, like run of the mill, what you'd expect, very good danceable jam, but that was forgotten about immediately. Like I think that this tumble has more staying power. And Neil, you and I talked about this, what was it, a week and a half ago after the first night in San Francisco about the Creatures. Like, I don't think we're seeing standard or totally standard versions of songs anymore. I think the band wants to be keeping things fresh and keeping things dynamic and exciting. And so I think part of that is this tumble goes to 20 minutes and they're making good use of that 20 minutes. There's stuff happening. It doesn't feel like they're just like mailing it in, whether this is making your Jam of the Year playlist or not. So I think that's something I want to keep my eye on now that, the thought has crossed my mind. But I'm curious, have you guys kind of, now that I say that, or have you thought about the intentionality behind what has gone past 20 minutes on this tour?
No. I don't know, man. I think sometimes they're just in the mood to let it go, and sometimes they're not. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. I think you can point back to that Boise Rosewood as a good example of there are no rules as to why they continue or don't, because there wasn't anything particularly noteworthy about the groove they chose to extend out 39, 38 minutes in that case. And then there are other grooves that they've cut short. So I don't know if there's intentionality there. They're just feeling it. And, sometimes it just happens, right? That Rosewood just happened. They got off and they were like, we didn't realize that was that long. And that's just, a thing that happens. I do think they are trying to touch on multiple jamming styles in a set. And I think this set is emblematic of that. Like Brian was just saying, that, this style of jamming was the 2019 style. This is kind of that funk groove thing. And then you get this new stuff, which is the Westville Rockdale style jamming. And then now the even newer jamming style, which is brand new circa 2025, headfirst dive into the bouncy side of things. And people are just devouring it.
Yeah.
So
people love it.
I love it. It's absolutely amazing. And then that's what jam bands are supposed to do. They're supposed to constantly reinvent themselves. We demand it as fans. And if they don't, we hate them for it, right?
We do.
And we take to social media and talk about how they've just completely lost it, So they're doing that in this set, and I think that is what overshadows something like this Tumble Jam. Whereas if they played this in 2020, it was going in the bracket and going far towards Jam of the Year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
go
ahead, Kev.
Kev had a.
So just real quick, Ryan, I would actually agree with you, because I think multiple times we've hit on this idea and this theme of efficient jamming that we've talked about, a lot, I think, over the last few months. I can't recall the show right now, but that like 15-minute pancakes from a couple months back is the one that jumps out at me. Where it's,
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids. It's Grand Rapids. So where it's just this beautiful stretch of like 6 or 7 minutes of just emotional, Rick jamming, not shredding, but just jamming. And, we talked about that sort of efficiency that they are learning, but then you do come up with these counterexamples like Neil elocuted about this Rosewood that, went on for 30 plus minutes and didn't necessarily, shatter any new ground.
B.
I'm ready to talk about the rest of the set.
All right.
We probably should.
Neil mentioned the ounce, and I was just going to say we'll get to Echo of a Biscuit. I just want to this Factory Fiction, and I don't want to just start with the Factory Fiction. I want to start with the last minute or two of Tumble that takes us into this Factory Fiction. I think one of the notable things for me about this band right now is, and you guys have heard me talk about this a lot, but I love the fact that they're taking their time in these spaces in between songs, and they're bringing things down. They're finding some ambience, and that's just one of the things that I love about this kind of music, this genre of music. It's a little thing, but to me it goes a long way to creating that experience and to linking up these songs and enhancing the flow. There's a ton of value in it, and I just love that that's if you want to talk about intentionality. I think there's some intentionality in their segues and their approach to segues. So sure. This is another, and this set is full of them also. But this one is really nice. I love how they just, slowly make their way into Factory Fiction. Mm-hmm. And yeah, crowd went nuts. This is a loved song, and kind of to your point, Brian, and others. Yeah, when you look at this second set on paper, outside of the covers, I mean, yeah, this is a 2019. You could argue 2018 set. So yeah, jamming out the classics for sure last night, and yeah, I was super, super excited to see Factory Fiction. I felt like it took the vibe that Tumble created and then just ratcheted up a notch. I mean, the energy in the place was through the roof. So yeah, just amazing song choice.
And this Factory Fiction jam is basically, 5-6 minutes of, kind of prelude to State of the Art, but that's not to diminish what it is, because it's just like dense space, haze, exploration. Like, Cotter kind of really plays with the dynamics a little bit a few times. It feels like he's building up, and then he kind of, comes back out. Peter doing all sorts of shit on his Nord, crazy delays, and I won't start naming effects because Neil doesn't like when I do that. But I was like, I like my jaw was on the floor for this jam because this is so not what you expect. And Factory Fiction. So this is the first time since Goose at First Bank at Broomfield in 2022 that Factory Fiction was not set closer or encore. So it has the opportunity to do something, which it does in two halves. Which unrelated note, if these two halves were one jam, would be my number one jam of the year. But this first half before State of the Art is just so amazing. And Brian, that speaks to what you were talking about, how you get a little bit of all the different styles in this set. And so this is incredible. And the way that Rick pulls the beginning of State of the Art out of this like cloud of space, just amazing. So yeah. Brian, I'll throw it to you now. You got thoughts on this Factory State of the Art?
I just got a lot of gushing. I loved this all. Factory Fiction I've seen now 4 times, which feels it feels gluttonous in a way. I'm not complaining. This is one of my top 3 or 4 favorite Goose songs.
Brian,
this song, yeah.
Congratulations on being a Colorado resident.
I know. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed.
Subarus and Factory Fictions. That's what we get.
That's it. I love that they added the Subaru branding throughout Fiddler's Green. It just made us feel really like we were home.
There are models on either side of the stage. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like thank you for bringing that up. There are like 2 Subarus on either side of the stage.
Everywhere I look, I love it. No, I mean Factory Fiction is it even if even seeing it on a regular basis here, like I don't think it can be lost on you that it is a huge song, that it combines so many elements of what makes the entire Goose experience musically, a really special thing, all in one package. And usually we get it as a 18 to 20 minute long jam, like Ryan said, closes out a big set, say Red Rocks 23 or the Encore at the Mission in 2021. Whereas here, when it started, it had, and forgive the comparison again, but whatever, man, I'm on a Fish podcast. It had the feeling of when Fish would launch into David Bowie in the mid 1990s. And you had just like, this isn't here to cap off a set. This isn't here to, send you on your way with an energy burst. This isn't just like hey, this is how we used to write songs. This is a fully, experimental piece that we're going to have here. And Goose, I listen to a lot of Goose. I don't listen to as much Goose as you guys. They are not this type of like throw a bunch of songs into a sandwich as certain other jam bands are, right? Like this is a pretty rare thing for them to do. So to see them experiment with it, I'd have a little bit of a nit to pick with choosing State of the Art there. That's maybe just a me thing, but then throwing Echo in, that is a song that is going to, make everyone, kind of go crazy again. And that it has jamming potential going into a Psycho Killer, relatively rare in their history, really just like blew the place apart. And then they jam that for another 15 minutes. I ignore the echo there. And then to go back, and you kind of knew Factory Fiction is one of those songs that has to end. So to go back into that and cap off the set with it, but we're not just doing like 6-7 minutes. It's a fully stretched out jam here in and of itself. We'll get into the details, but like that whole segment, adding on that to a very solid, very energetic, very fun Tumble, this just felt like a complete set, and the type of set that you play when you're in Colorado, when you are essentially are playing a on par with like New York, on par with Goose Miss, on par with like the big shows that they're going to play throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep on this Factory Fiction. I think a lot of words have already been said, and I don't think I can add much more to it. I will say that I love the use of Factory Fiction here, kind of like what Brian was saying, not having it be the bookend of a set or something like that, just having it be a song that's played. That's actually what I've been yearning for with this song. Yeah. They actually wore it out. There was like a stretch there, especially late 2023, where I was like, take the Factory Fiction. Like they're not doing anything exciting with it. Sure, it stretches out. Sure, it gets some of a jam, but it's not really doing anything truly exciting. It's not enhancing the set. It's just a box to check. That's what it felt like before. And it's just like, oh, I got the Factory. Like, great, I'm going to move on. This is something different. We're going to play the song and we're going to dig in deep. So when I said earlier that they don't jam Factory, that's kind of what I was talking about. Sure, you get some improv in there, but nothing like this. This is really a digging deep into what this song is capable of doing in a way that I don't think they really have done before. Somebody in the comments pointed to, Red Rocks 2023, and like that's different though, because they just kind of pulled in a familiar jam there and played it inside of this. This just feels like a real exploration of the song that needed to feel exciting, and they did. They made the song feel exciting again for me.
And speaking of Dragonfly, I thought maybe they were doing it for a second.
There's a little bit of a vibe
towards the end of this Factory Fiction, when they're like just way out in space. I'm like, are we gonna get the Dragonfly? But no, they did not. And I mean, State of the Art, love the song. I think it was Adam who said earlier, like great, but we didn't need it.
Right.
In that slot, which I agree with. Looking back on this set, like I love the way that State of the Art kind of fits into the arc of the set. But I'd be lying if I didn't wish they had seen where that, like if Cotter then built into the next segment that would have happened improvisationally, where do they go from there? All right, next segment. Let's go the whole segment here. Echo, Psycho Killer, Factory Fiction. And yes, there is a second Echo that is tracked out for royalty purposes on the recording. I believe, so it's officially it is Echo of a Rose, Psycho Killer, Echo of a Rose, Factory Fiction.
It's really funny because, like, when I was listening to it this morning, you kind of hear a subtle hint back towards the groove of Echo,
but nobody
it's never
plays anything that's Echo.
nobody
Yeah.
plays it. It's just like kind of back in like a happy upbeat tempo, and then they go off on that monster jam. I don't know. I don't think you would have allowed that if you were writing the sentence. I'll just say that.
Yeah, so this actually generates some questions. So let's think about Echo of a Rose and where it's been played in the past. For example, they played a fully fleshed out version of Echo of a Rose inside of another song at one time, and it constantly gets brought up on this podcast about how I'm wrong that they played Echo of a Rose, and then we track out something like this and we put that on the set list. I don't know.
You're still gnawing at shit from 2 years ago, Neil?
Let it
3
go.
years ago,
Yes.
Kev.
Yep.
Over
Jesus
3 years
Christ.
ago.
Let it
I'm
go,
never gonna
baby.
let it go.
Man.
39 months. It's been.
Yeah.
And he's still on.
Contains elements of Echo of a Rose. I think
There we go.
solves everything.
Yeah.
But
Contains
this
elements.
doesn't even contain the elements. This is just like
It
this
does
is like
not.
a LaCroix. This is like a hint of lime.
Well, yeah. Like somebody's just like shouting it from the other room. But I mean, maybe that's actually what it is. Like
You
Coach is
almost
like sitting
taste
on
it.
the side stage, just being like, "It's Echo of a Rose," and that's it. That's the only element of Echo of a Rose that you get.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Like
Well, so do we want to talk about the Goons?
the Goons. Yeah.
Not if you're going to call it that.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Neil
It
coined
just
it.
it kind of popped up earlier where I was just kind of like messing around with like Chat GPT, and then somehow it spit out the world's most annoying AI generated meme that said Goons on it. And I posted it to Twitter, and I hope that doesn't become a thing. And if it does, I apologize to everybody.
It's
That would be my
wonderful.
oh god. The
Yeah.
Goons. Oh god.
Well, I mean, I love this jam. And I love the way that they're playing with it. You know, we saw them kind of start into this kind of jam in the San Francisco Wisteria, the Masonic Wisteria. We should not call that the San Francisco Wisteria. There's only one
Right.
San Francisco Wisteria. So the Masonic Wisteria has this kind of jam, and Peter really going full mad scientist on his whole like new like Ableton and sampler rig and like different kinds of arpeggiators and sounds, and playing with the filter throughout. As I think I talked about this in that when we were talking about that jam as well, where it's not like he's not hitting the button, letting the arpeggiator go, and then doing other shit. Like he's constantly shaping that sound, which also leaves more room since he's not playing, piano or vibe or something like that. That leaves more room for Rick and Trevor, especially, to go forward. And so this is a really cool jam. And yeah, just like heavy, electronic vibes. Sorry if you don't. This is sick.
This was just more dance party. I mean, the energy of this set, and just to go back to state of the art, that was essentially just the cool down of this set. That was kind of the midpoint of the set where they wanted to take things down a notch. I had no problem with that. I love the song, and I do think it's a powerful song. And it has that very soft, gorgeous, intro and beginning, and then it builds up and has So anyway, but yeah, and I also agree with I wouldn't mind seeing just Greenwood Village Jam on the boards.
Yeah,
if you can do that. I think calling this Echo of a Rose is a little disingenuous, but whatever. I'm not going to get too bent out of shape over it. But this is, almost 12 minutes of just amazing high energy dance party lights. I mean,
oh yeah. Can we talk about the lights?
I'm just starting to, yeah.
Yeah. Talk about it.
What he's doing.
Yeah.
So this rig is insane. Obviously it's not the biggest, most intricate rig out there, but for Goose, this is top level, next level stuff from Getty, and I just love how he creates kind of the ceiling of lights that are coming out from the top of the stage, and I know from our vantage point down where we were, you really have to kind of you really have to look up to catch that. So I probably missed a lot of what he was doing.
Even at your height, really?
Well, it's not really about height at that point. It's about the angle needed.
I'm making a joke about you being tall, B.
So yeah, great. The lights just, I mean, they add such a vibe to the dance party, and yeah, this was a really cool jam. This is probably a playlist jam for me. I mean, it's 12 minutes of really awesome stuff, and I mean, whatever. People are going to argue about the improv quality or this or that, but it's an awesome jam, and I think I'm going to have a lot of this show on repeat, because let's be honest, this is an all-timer set. This set too. I mean, it's way up there. So, anywho.
Yeah. So real quick, if I could just say something to try and tie together, Brian, what you're saying earlier, and jive a little bit what you were saying in terms of you got like every single jamming style of Goose throughout the set.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that was a really cool thing to see, like their entire like toolbox, what they can do, what they do. And then all of that happens, B, to your point, all of that happens because they do have this like sort of deliberateness with those segues, which all, ties that whole set together and makes it that much more palatable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of every improv style, let's talk about what happens when they go back into factory fiction here. Because again, like they went back. It was very clear that they made the transition back into factory fiction. Unlike the Echo, there were very clearly, it was like, this is factory fiction. Synth drone comes back in, etc. And so I was expecting this could be the end of the set, and then we'll get like a long encore. They'll do like 5 or so minutes of like Rickle shred. Everyone will be like, yeah, factory fiction ending. And then, hard left into Westville Rockdale territory for like,
Oh my God,
8-9 minutes.
oh my God.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And so I've been waiting for them to do something more than Westville Rockdale. I've said it a few times on the podcast.
Yeah.
That jamming style, while exciting when it happened for Westville Rockdale, was starting to get a little bit stale because every time they went into it, they did a very, very similar thing. And you notice that in February, where kind of it tailed off a little bit, like the Hot Tea Encore, folks were like, all right, we've heard this a few times now.
Yeah.
And it kind of was trailing off on, at least on your list, it's down somewhere around, I don't know, in the teens. But this is something different. This is Westville Rockdale and then an extra step, and it's the step I've been waiting for, and that's what makes me really excited about this show. Is actually just this tiny segment of jamming in addition to what they had just come out of with the Psycho Killer jam. Mm-hmm. And this felt like at a moment like Primus to me, where it stopped being noise for the sake of, or dissonance for the sake of dissonance, and then it became something else. It's dissonant and cohesive in a way that it hadn't been yet, and musical. And this is what I was saying the other day. They're getting more and more musical with this stuff, and that's what I hear when I listen to this, and that's what makes me excited about it. So it's not just that one thing. They're getting better at it, and the fact that they're getting better at it is something that has me really excited.
Well, and to my ears, the big difference is how active Trevor is now this tour. I think in the past, this jamming style, when we saw it like last year and even in February, it was mostly like Cotter and Trevor laying down this kind of like, uneasy or like very hard charging beat. And then Rick and Peter are doing all the like chasing each other and dissonant stuff over top. And now you have Trevor like initiating these themes. And I think Rick and Peter are also looking to Trevor to lead jams in a way that they weren't before. So whether he was or not, they weren't necessarily like listening as close to his playing, and obviously they may have been. This is just obviously me as a listener. But I feel like they're now, the three of them are on equal footing in terms of whose melodic ideas can dictate where the jam goes next. Because there are different points in this second factory fiction where each of the three of them cause the jam to go in a new direction. And obviously Cotter doing that as well. So yeah, this so good. I think it's like 13 minutes of music. So, I'm going to point to the Legend Valley Madhavan precedent of this is going to be pretty high up on my playlist.
Well, and, to your point earlier, you said, if these were connected, then it might be my jam of the year, whatever. I would just say, I don't know. There doesn't have to be any rules about this,
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you. Thank you.
I think
There's
folks,
a can of worms, but I love it. Keep going.
I want to just say really quick. So Neil,
Yeah.
I was expecting those comments from you in a good way, because I thought about you last night many times.
Of course. Thanks.
But during during this Factory Fiction Jam, I thought about you because you've been talking about, they're adding in the musicality to the dissonance and the craziness. And, I've always been kind of one of those people where the Westville Rockdale isn't something that I really like to throw on and listen to. I appreciate it, but I'm not super stoked on those types of jams. It's just not my cup of tea, so to speak. But I am somewhere on that spectrum where Factory Fiction kind of sits from last night. I want some of that, but I want to retain, that semblance of musicality and the idea that it's not just this, cacophony of sound or what have you. So yeah, I agree that is a very positive step, and if that's where taking those chances can lead to, then it's like a lot of things. It's worth not hitting it out of the park every time, because you're going to get these cases, and I think we're seeing it more and more in other kind of styles and ways that they've approached improv. So yeah, I'm also super excited to see what we might be getting in the near future that potentially could match or exceed a jam like this Factory Fiction.
There we go.
I think it's an interesting point of like how far to the edge of noise versus melodicism they can get to before they potentially lose people, because I think one of the great appeals of this band is like the drive and the tumble from this show, which are not the most challenging bits of jamming that you could listen to, but they do enough, and like there's a big Rick solo, or the band connects around a groove in a really heavy way, and they repeat that over and over. I think that what made last night seem like a pretty monumental, pretty special show is you have those jams out of big songs to kick off a set, and then towards the end of the second set with this Echo Psycho Killer Factory Fiction segment, the band is really taking chances, and they've already given out really solid B plus performances out of like songs everybody loves, and here's an opportunity for them to really dive into taking a risk. And I think I agree with you, Neil. I think that you got this kind of like ebb and flow, especially in the Factory Fiction, of this sounds like a song and it sounds like a big peak and it's really enjoyable, but also like they're clearly taking chances within here. And that is a zone that I think it's hard to find, because you might one night feel really weird and experimental, and another night you just want to connect with the audience and have a good time. And how do you make that work on a night to night basis? It's definitely a challenging line to get to. It's exciting to see them figure it out.
Absolutely. Anybody have anything to add here before we talk about the Arcadia Encore?
Just real quick to Brian's point there, like I think like that drive and that tumble provides a point of accessibility for a lot of fans, where it doesn't feel like, oh, I need to be a jazz musical theorist to be able to understand what's going on in the Echo of a Rose, a wrap up segment. You know what I mean? Good point.
Yeah. So we get Arcadia in the Encore, long awaited. First Arcadia played in Denver since the Mission.
Wow,
crazy there. Yeah, they did it at Fort Collins in 2023, in the state of Colorado, but obviously that's not Denver.
That Mission version's pretty good, right, Ryan?
I've heard about it.
It's no Swansea. So last night's Arcadia is interesting to me because they had the time. They had close to 20 minutes for it. I think they tried like a kitchen sink approach here. I think there were a lot of ideas thrown around. Not all of them totally worked. It's a really cool Trevor-led modulation at one point. But the one musical idea that stuck out to me was the part where like Rick leads this modulation and then they're basically playing like JGB Get Out of My Life Woman for like a minute. Like it's literally that exact groove for like a minute in this Arcadia. And I was like singing it over top and I was like, yeah, this is the same thing. So funny little tidbit there. But I mean, Arcadia Encore when they have more than 12 minutes. Fantastic.
Well, if they choose to jam it in the way that they did. And it does feel like we're getting somewhere with Arcadias at this point. For a long time, we'd said, oh, they played Arcadia again on this podcast. And then we just moved on. We didn't even talk about the jam because there was nothing really to talk about. But it seems that things have been building since they came back in 2024. That Arcadia then, I was really excited about it.
Yeah, but
And
really
I think
February.
they've just gotten better.
Yeah.
And this one is good. I think this is better than the one in February. I need to go back and listen again. But I was pretty stoked on this one. It does a little bit more than what they've done.
Yeah.
Super high energy, man. It left everybody, everybody left that place fucking smiling and riled up and happy with what they just saw. It fulfilled its function.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Arcadia is one of those songs that as the band continues to grow, it feels like the big one that's being left behind a little bit. In the sense of that Peach version got a lot of people on board at a very special time. The Mission version was kind of this, culmination of this song as it had been growing over the last couple of years. There's one from I'm totally blanking out, but early 21, June 21, maybe Connecticut, maybe
Swansea,
Forest
New
Hills.
Hampshire.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's like the second song of the show.
If you
Like
will. Yep.
just big old peak. Okay, thank you. It felt like kind of a hat tip to the early part of this decade, which is only 5 years, but is a huge period in time in this band's history. Playing it as the encore of the first night felt appropriate to close out a show that just was so heavy on classics like last night was. Almost allows them an opportunity to come out tonight, throw down a bunch of new songs, and kind of point their way towards the future.
Bass.
That's what we want. That's what people want. Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting a lot of new songs tonight. I think that's a good point, Brian. Like they played a lot of the classics last night. We are at 73 minutes. It's almost time for set break.
It's now officially a longer podcast than Goose's first set last night.
Yeah.
Oof.
Heyo. We're gonna get a lot of new songs tonight. We saw the repeats from Spokane come back last night, so I think everything from Vegas is on the table. Or no, I guess that would mean Boise.
Wait, but pause. Nothing is off the table. The only thing that's off the table is what they played yesterday. They're playing whatever they want tonight. Yeah. So get ready. I mean, they absolutely want this to be a special show. There will be at least 2 surprises in the show, and they're going to somehow find a way to play as much of that album as they can.
Yeah, and I think they know there are a lot of people who are big Goose fans, like the 2 Brians on this podcast, and Kev, I guess to a lesser extent, because you did travel out of state earlier this week, but who live in Colorado, who love Goose, who don't do a lot of traveling, and so haven't seen Goose in a year, and so haven't seen all of these recently debuted songs. I think there is a large chunk of the people at these shows who love Goose but aren't doing a ton of travel for them. So I do expect to see a lot of these songs like Dustin, Iguana, Big Modern, etc. Come back tonight. But don't take my word for it because I got 0 points in fantasy last night.
Ouch. Sucker. Ouch.
Yeah. I don't know if you've looked at our border states here, but why would I leave Colorado? What am I going to do? Come on.
Get on a plane.
Well, that's the whole point. You don't have to leave Colorado. You can just sit there and allow the good music to come to
you. They all come to me. Come on. What are you talking about?
And when they don't, you webcast.
Yeah.
Big webcast guy.
Big guy.
All right. Well, thank you,
Night
Brian,
two.
for joining us today. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
The 3 of us will see you in the lot in a couple hours. I believe. Neil, we will not see you in the lot because you're not here, and we're very sad about that. Yeah. We miss you.
I'm gonna sit there and just drop maudlin tears into my glass of Merlot as I look at pictures of you guys, wishing I was standing alongside you.
Make more goons me.
Goons.
That's what I'm doing with my time.
That's what you're doing. That's why you're not in Colorado, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk for way too long about music with you.
Likewise.
See you soon. And everybody, thank you for joining us on this Saturday afternoon. Hope you have an amazing night too at Fiddler's, whether you're there or on the couch. It's going to be good, as we know. Colorado Goose.
Nothing else like it.
And if Wallace Brinkman's at the show, you better watch out.
We got a high batting average right now with that kid.
Just wait for his first Aggie show. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you tomorrow to recap tonight's show. Peace.